Hey guys, welcome to the channel, and today we are going to show you how we built this pad for a shed to sit on. Alright guys, pretty excited. Today is the first day with the new camera, the DJI Osmo Action 3. So hopefully we can start getting some videos out without having the cameras crap out. Today, I think we're going to do the first ever how-to. I don't like to do how-tos because, you know, people are critics, but I don't care no more, okay? We got a new camera. It's time to make some good videos on the channel. So this is going to be a how-to on how to, well, obviously you're going to see the thumbnail, shed pad. Now, basically what we have to do is the first thing that you have to do is you have to clear it. Somebody already cut the trees. So once you cut the trees, figure out, you know, obviously where you're going to put the thing. This was a good location for them. Then you have to remove any of the brush, stumps. Then after that, you're going to want to remove any of the undergrowth. So that's what we're going to do. And that's pretty much the order. And depending on where you live, where I live, everything has to be separated. So I'm gonna take all the stumps and the brush and everything and put it on one load. I guess they want to keep that, they're gonna burn it, but I told them I would get this stuff out of here too. After that, we're gonna bring in some of that 3/4 dense grade, that's what they call it in our area. It's basically 3/4 minus crushed bluestone. So it has like the stone dust in it. In my area they call it dense grade, and like last year we did this section here. So we're gonna make this continue out this way, so if they want to back up to the front of the shed with their vehicle to unload stuff, they can. Now these little jobs here are my favorite. Why are they my favorite? They're my favorite because they usually pay really well. There's no permits involved on our end. They don't require any engineers. They don't require any blueprints or plans or anything. And usually you can do them in a day. The profit margins on these are high. They're not high paying like if you were to do a huge job, like, you know, $100,000 job. But on a $100,000 job, you'll be lucky if you even touch 50%. Whereas this here, the profit on these types of jobs, normally, this is a friend of mine, I took this job just to help him out, but normally on a job like this, your profit's usually above 50%, sometimes 75%, depending on how you lay the job out and how you do it. Now, I took this job, number one, because my friend, this is his daughter's house. He just had an operation and he was trying to do this by himself. But what happened was their shed came early. So the shed came early, and the shed place that has it, they're looking to deliver it. So he called me and said, I'm in a jam, can you help me out? They're trying to deliver the shed early. So that's why I took this job. But if you want to line up a whole bunch of these types of small jobs, you know, with a small machine like this, you can make a pretty good living for yourself. You could probably make $100 grand a year just doing small stuff like this. So anyways, let's get to it. Like I said, the first thing you want to do is, before you go to do the job, probably days in advance, you need to call your local locate company. You know, where I live, they're called DigSafe. See, so they have a gas line running up the center of the driveway. Now, I've seen them run up next to the driveway, and you know, the wires sometimes run underground next to the driveway too. That brings me to my next thing. If there's no wires in the ground, you have to take a look at where the wires come into the house. Luckily for us, the wires run through the woods here and they're nowhere near where we are. But you got to take into account for all that stuff, because if you're swinging the top of the excavator around, you could hit the wires and electrocute yourself and die. Sounds harsh? That's because it is. After you've got unloaded and found a nice spot out of the way for your trailer so it's not bothering anybody, and the reason you don't want it bothering anybody is because you don't want the people in the middle of the project asking you to stop what you're doing and go move your trailer. So now we've got the truck set up and we're close enough to the job site so we won't be spilling a lot of stuff or traveling far to it. You want to get as close as you safely can to your work area with your truck, but at the same time you don't want to be too close to where you can't move your machine, because you know you're too close and banging and bumping into your truck. Alright, I think the rest of that is going to go towards the compost
load.
Load.
Because this needs to be separated is what you were talking about earlier, right?
Yes, it's got to be separated.
Okay.
I don't think there's enough brush in that to go to the brush pile. However, what we're going to do is I'm going to grab this little bit of stuff here because it's pine and he doesn't want to burn the pine because of the sap that's in it. So I'm going to get that out of there for him. I'm going to pull forward and I'm going to grab this brush pile out of here for him. I told him I would while I have the machine here. And then what we'll do is we will check back on step number 2. All right, so we just got back from dumping that load of brush. Stopped, got some coffee. I took the pin that goes in there out of the barn door gate. So it's working now as a regular swing gate. What we're gonna do is I'm gonna grub out this entire area here with this loamy, this is what we compost to make topsoil. We call it loam here, L-O-A-M. Some people call it loam, but it's loam, L-O-A-M. Topsoil. I've been calling it topsoil recently because everybody understands topsoil better. So all this will get compost to make topsoil, but they have stakes where they want to put, I don't know if you can see them, they're kind of hard to see, where the shed is, the shed size. What I would suggest to anybody is go like at least a foot or two past where you're gonna put your shed, a foot or two past the exact size. But what we have to do is we have to dig this down to some good hard because this is soft. It's like root mat, you know, when you step on it. See, it's all root mat. You can see how much the excavator pressed it down. You don't want your shed to sink when you're doing that, you know. So here's another stake here. So yeah, and the other one's right on that corner right there. So let's get to digging. Alright, so the thing is, you want to try to get down to that orange brown clay layer. I don't know if you guys can see, I can barely see in the truck, but that's okay. You don't have to get every little last crumb, like, you know, like that little bit there. You don't have to get all of that. You just want to see mostly that orange clay layer. And we did go like a foot or two beyond his stake. I can see it. You might not be able to see it on the camera. That way when you compact, you're not falling off the edge. You don't want to put the pad in here, compact it, and it's the exact same size as the shed, and then the shed will, you know, like the corner block will roll off the edge of the pad. You have to go a little past where you want the shed block corner to be, if that makes sense. And then you're just trying to get down to that orange clay dirt, but if you're near a tree, it is just a shed. Don't dig too deep and hit the tree roots as much as you can avoid it. You want to leave the tree roots, that way the tree doesn't die, because then you'll have to take down another tree. If it was a building, you would have to take the tree down because the roots could ruin your foundation. Just remember not to go too deep. It's okay to leave a little bit of crumbs, like a little bit, you know, of that loamy black dirt. You can leave a little bit of it, but you don't want to leave a lot of it because it's biodegradable. So as it sinks, when it's rotting, your shed pad will sink also. I got the truck loaded. and I got down to the hardener level. I'm gonna walk around, pick up a couple loose roots. I'm not gonna get too crazy. If it was a building, you know, you'd probably want to get every little bit, but I don't want to disturb this nice tree here, so this is pretty good. A couple little roots, but that's all right. Give me the old yanker. All right, so this is the nice hardening material, hardener we call it. We used to use this stuff everywhere, but they don't want to use it no more on, you know, engineers and stuff. We used to, when I was growing up, you'd take a bunch of this, throw some 1.5 inch stone in it, and build driveways on it. But now we use this. So we are a little wider, probably like 2 feet wider than the stakes. A little flare at the end there, a little flare at the end of there, just to make it look a little nicer. And if they're gonna back up to it this way, you know, and it'll follow this radius a little bit. So let's go dump this, and I gotta do a couple phone calls. Life of a business owner operator. Do some phone calls, go dump this, and get a load of dense grade, and we'll check back. Okay, so the reason I dumped that on here is because it's the same material. If you had different material, you would want to dump it in there. And you got to be careful when you're dumping the angle, so I had to readjust because I wasn't comfortable with the way the truck felt. Dumping on angles isn't good for the truck because it tweaks stuff. Like under the dump body there's a scissoring mechanism, and you tweak stuff and pins and puts pressure on things. It's not really that good. So since this is the same material, I dumped it on here, and we'll be able to carry that grade and push it out. That's what it measured out to, but if we're wrong, we can always go get a little bit more. I forgot to mention too, I kind of goofed on this because I was trying to get to the place, but you want to clean your machine off like ahead of time before you get on to the new material, the nice material. Now when you're doing this, it would be much faster if I brought the skid steer. The mini excavator is a little slow at pushing material. Everybody thinks that it's a dozer blade, but that's actually a backfill blade, like a cleanup blade. Doesn't have a lot of strength like a skid steer or a bulldozer or something. So if there's a big pile in the way, you have to move it out of the way with the bucket first. So if you have a tractor or a skid steer or something, I'd bring that. But for this little job that we're doing close to home, we can take our time and use the mini. Yeah, it's snowing out. Keep going. Right about there is good. That's 2 feet past the mark. I'll set your corners up for you. A lot of times it works better if you paint out your lines, but since I didn't bring any paint because I forgot it, I'm just making a line with this dense grade and he can fill it in. I'll make the line a little bit neater. The stake is right there, so we're coming out a little bit past it. My son's a new operator, so I'm letting him have some machine time, so that's why he's going a little slower than maybe I would go or someone else. While he's working on spreading some of that, I'll tell you, the way to measure this is we do length times width times height and then divide by 27, and that's how you figure out yardage. And then for this stuff here, we then convert it by timesing it by 1.3, because that's what the supply place tells us that they calculate their tonnage for dense grade at their facility. Some places are like 1.2. This particular place that we got this was 1.3. That's something you're going to want to know, because when you convert your yardage to tonnage, if you don't know what that place is calling their tonnage, and I know it sounds silly that everybody calls it something different, but if you don't know what that place is calling their tonnage, that could really mess you up on your yardage. So there's the correct amount here. It's just a matter of him, new operator, playing with it to get it right. Alright guys, we are finished. I tapered the edges a little bit. He only wanted like 4 inches, but I think we're like 6. I calculated for 6, and according to the calculations, pretty much came out good. Now, you can use different types of material to put your shed on. The reason why he wanted to use this is because it matches everything else, and we're going to redo the entire driveway. We did that area this past summer, I think, and a little bit over there. You can see the color difference. That's darker. What we're going to do now is we are going to load the machine. I'm going to kick out some of these ruts from the machine, knock them around, and then we're going to get out of here because it's freezing cold and we want to go home. But to be honest with you, what we just did is perfect setup to pave over it. If you were to hire a paving company, this is pretty much exactly what they would do. They would dig down to a good base, put in a better top base, if you want to call it that, then, you know, put in a driveway binder, asphalt mix. So what I like to do is, if you're going to do something like this, is set it up so you have options later. If you want to get rid of the shed, you can now park on that. And if you're parking on it and you don't like the gravel, you can pave on it. Like, you build from the ground up, and then you don't have to go backwards. So anyways, that's my little how-to. It was nice being able to finally do a how-to video, because normally I don't, because people don't really like you to film on their property. Most of the time, believe it or not.
Taking the time to like talk. You know?
Or taking the time to talk.
You'd love to talk all day.
I would love to talk all day if I had something else to say, but I don't, because I'm freezing cold. So anyways, catch you on the next one.